everybody. Welcome into the Shelby County High School Football Show. We are here at Helena High School to get you ready for another action-packed week of football action here in Shelby County, and a big night ahead as we've hit the midway point of the 2021 high school football season. Hard to believe that we've made it to that point in the year. Feels like just yesterday we were kicking off the season, but here we sit, and we've got 4 teams on bye this week, and we've also got several other teams playing this Friday night, but those teams going to be in non-region action, so we do get a break from region games this Friday, but that doesn't give you any less excitement this Friday night as we've got some big matchups taking place, including our game of the week right here at Helena High School. The Huskies coming off that big, thrilling win against Pelham last week, sit atop the region standings alone right now with that big victory, 37-34 against the Panthers, and a wild finish over the final 6 minutes. We'll talk a little bit more about that game, our game of the week here between Helena and McAdory, as well as the other matchups that we have ahead on Friday night. But you look at the midway point of the season, we've got several teams still undefeated, 3, in fact, still undefeated on the season. Beyond that, we've got 2 others with just 1 loss, and we've got 7 total teams above 500 right now at the midway point. So we get a break from region play this week, but a lot of teams playing, looking to build up more confidence going into the second half of region play, looking to chase down either a playoff spot in general or, in addition to that, looking to get a region championship, which we've got several teams with strong chances to do so, and they've got some good games coming up in the second half. You look at Thompson, Briarwood, and Helena all have great chances to bring home a region title this year. So we'll see how that unfolds down the stretch. Quickly, we're going to recap a few teams that are going to be on bye this week. The Oak Mountain Eagles and Spain Park Jaguars, both off this Friday night, will play each other a week from Friday. The Eagles lose a tough contest yet again to the Hoover Buccaneers, looking for that first win in school history against Hoover, and they couldn't quite pull it off. Fell behind 21-0 in that game, but came back. Strong second half as we've seen all year, but the deficit was just too much to overcome this time around as they fall 28-21 to the Buccaneers. First loss of the year for Oak Mountain there on the season. The Spain Park Jaguars, who Oak Mountain will play a week from Friday, also off this week. They lose 29-26, another tough loss for the Jaguars to Gadsden City as they led that game 17-0 and couldn't quite get anything going in the second half, and they fall by 3 points in a tough one. The Jags still sitting with just that lone victory in the opener this season against the Huntsville Panthers. The Montevallo Bulldogs and Vincent Yellow Jackets also going to be off this Friday night. Montevallo, a big win, coming off those back-to-back losses to American Christian and Bibb County. They pick up a 49-8 win against Wilcox Central. You'll hear a little bit more about some playmakers there for the Bulldogs in our SCR Stars of the Week segment at the end of the show. And same for the Vincent Yellow Jackets as they are now 4-1 overall on the season with back-to-back wins now. They get a 48-21 win against Fayetteville. That defense continuing to play the best it's played in several years. Jamari Lawson, another 200-plus yard rushing performance. We'll talk a little bit more about the Yellow Jackets at the end of the show as well. But we've recapped last week. We've got several games coming up this week. We're going to dive in. We're going to talk about all of the action in this non-region week on Friday night. We're going to start right here with our game of the week. Well, for a non-region game, it doesn't get much bigger than this. You're going to have 2 top 10 teams here, both undefeated on the season at 5-0, sitting atop their region standings here at Helena High School on Friday night as the Huskies play host to the McAdory Yellow Jackets. It's been an incredible season for both of these teams so far and really playing well on both sides of the ball. We haven't seen much weakness to this point. Helena, obviously last week in that back-and-forth affair with the Pelham Panthers, a huge rivalry showdown there, a lot of fuel and build-up going into that matchup, and they end up making the big play late to win that game. And with J.C. Sibley's touchdown catch there of about 70 yards from quarterback Mac Turner, a big play there at the end, and then the defense makes a big stand as well. A Hail Mary falls incomplete from Will Langford at the end of the game there for the Panthers, and Helena holds on to win that one 37-34, and a team that had played so well defensively this year, struggled at times, but also made the stops that they needed to late in that game, in that final minute of that contest. So you see a little bit of positive there. You see a team that's finally been challenged in a very close game, and they're able to pull it out with making plays on the offensive side of the football. Jordan Washington, a big run late in that game, an 80-yard touchdown run, and then you had J.C. Sibley make that big catch as well. So you see that offense continuing to get better, putting up 37 points in that win. We've seen them improve up front. We've seen the running game improve. We've seen Turner. We've seen Sibley step in to a monster go-to target. He's been a guy all over the field so far this season. So the offense coming along, and we know traditionally what we're going to get from the defense. And having a game like they did last week where they gave up 34 points to their rival may be something that helps them get a little bit more motivation going into this game. And that's a dangerous and scary thought when you look at how well this defense traditionally plays. So you look at that, I expect the Huskies to come out ready to roll on both sides of the ball in this matchup. You look so far this season, it's been a successful run for Helena, who's giving up just 11.6 points per game and scoring 34.2 points per game. But now comes arguably their toughest challenge of the year so far. You look at what McAdory's been able to do so far this season, 37.6 points per game they're scoring, and they're giving up just 15.2 points per game. So that's a team also playing well on both sides of the ball. I think you're going to see a game where you've got two offenses that are going to like to be physical and try to set the tone early, and you've got two defenses that are extremely talented this year. I don't see this one being like last week's. I thought the Pelham-Helena game was going to be lower scoring than it was. I still think this one's going to be low scoring even after what we saw last week and with what we've seen from both offenses this year too. Helena did a great job early on in that game with several big drives. There were 3 or 4 drives where they put together 12-plus plays and went on a scoring drive. So I would expect they're going to kind of try to set the tone that way like they traditionally do, play great defense. I don't see as many points in a very physical game. It's a non-region game. I don't see these guys coming out and putting up a ton of points on either side of this matchup. I think you're going to see a lower scoring battle, maybe in the 20s would be where I would say with each of these teams will get as far as a max goes on their point total. So we'll see. I think it's going to be a very close game, a very physical and good game between two teams that are battling for a region championship this year. This one's going to be a toss-up. It's one you don't want to miss because both of these teams could make deep playoff runs this season. So you get a little bit of a future look into what's going to happen there down the road. I think the Huskies have a strong chance to win their region championship. This would solely give them even more confidence with what they've already got to beat a team like McAdory and then go into what they've got left in region play. If they win this one, Helena may finish the regular season undefeated this season. So a big, big game this Friday night as far as confidence goes. We'll see how it unfolds right here on this field behind me. You don't want to miss it. We'll have some great coverage. Graham Brook's going to be out here covering this game for us on Friday night. We'll have Jeremy Raines with some great photos as well. So going to be a lot of fun out here for this Helena McAdory game, our game of the week. Make sure you get out and catch it. Well, we all heard it going into last week's game, blah, blah, blah. Thompson hasn't played anybody to this point in the season. It didn't matter that they hadn't played anybody to that point in the season. They had outscored opponents 217-3 going into their matchup against Hewitt-Trussville. And as good as the Huskies had played so far this season, still put up a tough test early in that game from a physicality standpoint. But Thompson goes on, pulls away in that one, 42-9 against the number 4 team in the state in the 7A classification. Thompson yet again still has yet to give up double digits so far this season as they hold Hewitt-Trussville to 9 points in that game, and they have now outscored opponents 259-12, and you can't use the excuse that they haven't played anybody at this point now, because that was a good Hewitt-Trussville team that does have Division I talent on their roster. So when you look at Thompson moving forward, this is a team that is loaded and built to three-peat as state champions as long as they can stay within themselves and put together a good showing each week. They've got to stay focused on the task at hand, and that continues this week. The schedule is going to be more difficult the rest of the season than it was those first 3 games of the season, but now they've proven they can do it against the best. It's just a matter of playing to that standard each week of the season and taking on a Mountain Brook team used to be in the 7A classification, now down in Class 6A. This is a Mountain Brook team that's playing very similar football to what Thompson's done so far this year. They're playing great on the defensive side of the football and playing some good offense as well. And you look at them, they've outscored opponents 199-17 so far this season, and it really hasn't been a light schedule. They've played some good opponents, some opponents that traditionally play physical football, and they've come out and they've handled their business and done extremely well in doing so. But you look at the way this Thompson team is playing, that defensive line is a nightmare to go up against right now, and they're playing with a ton of confidence when you look at Peter Woods and Jeremiah Alexander on each end of the line, and then you look at the speed they have. That's the big difference. You've got those two guys not only that can get in the backfield and run over any defensive lineman out there, but they can run on the edge, and then you get to the next level, and you've got guys like Jax Van Zant and so many others at the linebacker position. Then you get back to the next level, and you've got Traquan Fagans, and you've got Tony Mitchell and all these guys. It's just so tough. You can't run up the middle. You can't beat them on the edge, and good luck trying to throw down the field on them. So it's going to be a tough task for Mountain Brook to find what they need to do offensively in this game to be able to pick up a win. But you look at the Spartans and what they have to rely on, it's that defensive side of the football. They've given up 7 or less with 2 shutouts so far this season. In every game they've given up 7 or less, and they've scored 31 or more on the offensive side of the football so far this season. So you look at Thompson, they're giving up 2.4 points per game on the defensive side, but then you look at Mountain Brook, just 1 more point per game. They're giving up 3.4 points per game on the offensive side. So if you're Mountain Brook, that's what you've got to do. You've got to find ways to make life difficult for Connor Harrell, get in the backfield, shut down that running attack, and then just hope that you can find a way to make him frazzled early to where he doesn't feel comfortable sitting in the pocket trying to find one of his 15 wide receivers that can go for over 100 yards. So it's a tall task. It's one that's challenging, but that's the best way to find a way to beat the Thompson Warriors this year, is to really make them feel unsettled early in the game offensively. But so far this season, it hasn't worked. The Warriors have been great at stepping up early, gaining some confidence on the offensive side, and it's worked extremely well as they've taken early leads in every game. And it helps when you've got a defense out there that you can take more chances with your offense, because you know that defense is going to step up and make big-time plays. So for Mountain Brook, it's going to come down to how well they play defensively early in this game. I do think this will be the toughest defense that Thompson's faced so far this year, but I still don't think that's going to be enough. I expect the Warriors to roll again, improve to 6-0 on the season. It's a non-region game, so that doesn't really matter. But this is a big game for what they have ahead. Obviously, Hoover to close out region play in a few weeks, and still some big games before then as well. So a big night for the Warriors to continue to gain confidence against arguably one of the best teams that they've played so far this season. Well, the Calera Eagles are back in action this week as they come off a bye week last Friday night. They get a Pell City team in which they should be able to pick up another win. And you look at the way the Eagles are playing so far this season, coming off a 21-0 victory against Chilton County a couple weeks ago, a big game to help boost their momentum as that offense continues to roll. You look at Preston Stokes, you look at Braylon Farrington, you look at Kobe Prentice, the Alabama commit. This offense is playing extremely well, and they've got those guys out there. You've got 2 receivers now for Stokes to throw to in his first year as a starter that have given him a ton of confidence, and it shows in the way he plays. He's not scared to throw the ball to those guys, and those are chances he's going to have to take and this team needs to take moving forward. And if they're able to successfully convert on those chances, then this is a team that could make some noise and fight for a playoff spot this season. So we'll see how they handle that on Friday night. Obviously, Chris Cotton, a big playmaker for the Eagles at running back. We're not sure how he's feeling health-wise. He went down with an injury early in that game against Chilton County. So if he's there, this offense becomes even more dynamic as the offensive line has continued to improve throughout the season. So that would take them to an even further level as far as how good of a chance they have to win this game. But when you look at the game on paper, this is a Calera team sitting at 2-2, their first time with 2 head-to-head wins in a season since joining the 6A classification. So playing some great football so far this season. And they're taking on a Pell City team that's sitting at 1-3 right now. Pell City scoring 19.4 points per game, giving up 23.5 points per game. So they're right there on that toe of being an average team on both sides of the football. So what can Calera do to exploit? And I think the biggest key that they have is that they're coming off a bye week. This is a team that struggles at times with their depth and stamina, especially on the defensive side of the football. They have a lot of guys playing on both sides of the football, so now they've had an extra week coming off a win to gain some of that stamina back going into this matchup against Pell City. I think that's a huge boost for Calera in this matchup. I can easily see the Eagles getting back into the 20s again scoring-wise. If the defense is refreshed enough, I think they limit Pell City to 17 or less in this game. I think you're going to be looking at a Calera team that's got 3 head-to-head wins at the end of Friday night, improved to above 500, and they're going to gain a ton of confidence. If you look at what they have left, they need to probably go after this game 2-2 in their final 4 region games to have a chance at the postseason. And there's 2 games that are going to be extremely difficult, and there's 2 games that are toss-ups that I think that they can win. So this is a big game as far as their confidence goes, as far as momentum goes into those last 4 region games. I think you could be looking at the end of the year at a Calera team that could be in the postseason this year under first-year head coach Jason Hamlin, which would be remarkable. That would be a great storyline, but it all starts with how you handle each week, and you got to pick up a big win against a team like Pell City, a team that you're supposed to beat. Boy, is this a big game between the Chelsea Hornets and Pelham Panthers at Chelsea High School. Not only a non-region county battle, all these county games are so much fun to watch unfold, seeing what these teams are able to do against rivals. These are old region foes, used to be in the same region before reclassification a couple years ago. So you know both of these teams need this game and want this game going into the last leg of region play. And you look at the way that both of these teams are playing going into this matchup. Obviously, Pelham off the disappointing, heartbreaking loss on senior night to their rivals, the Helena Huskies, in a 37-34 game that was back and forth, and it looked like they had lost at one point, then it looked like they had won, then it looked like they had lost again, and then it looked like they were going to have a chance to win one more time. So just so much of an emotional roller coaster there last week. How do you bounce back and get refocused and shift your energy into this matchup? That was a tough blow to lose that game to your rival, but now you've got to shift your focus because you don't want back-to-back losses and you don't want to lose any confidence. That was a great performance by the Panthers last week. They just needed 1 or 2 more plays on either side of the ball to make a difference in that contest, and they fell short in doing so. But you look at the way they played against an undefeated top 10 team, they almost pulled off that win, and that's something that's got to motivate this team moving forward. And now they've got a chance to get that confidence right back in this matchup against Chelsea on Friday night, and the Hornets are going to be looking for the same exact thing. This is a Chelsea team that so far this season has struggled overall. It's a team that's had chances in every single game so far this season, but they're sitting at 0-4 coming off a bye week going into this matchup. Now, that bye week has given them an opportunity to fix a lot of their mistakes, figure out what they need to do to get over the hump in these tight games. But you look at their 4 games so far, they've had a chance to win each and every one of those contests so far this season. Opening week, they went into the half tied with Oak Mountain, came out flat in the second half. The next week, they came out flat in the first half against Helena, and then bounced back and came within 6 points late in the second half, had a chance to take the lead there late in the game, but ultimately lose that game 27-14. And then the week after that, the biggest blow so far to number 4 Briarwood. They lose that game 42-35 and led 35-21 with about 6 minutes to play in that contest. So a tough blow there, and then they bounce back one more time. Another strong performance against Homewood, and they lose that one 37-35 in a comeback attempt where they fell just short on a 2-point conversion there at the end of the game. So just 4 tough losses in general for Chelsea so far this season. But like the Panthers losing last week, Chelsea's 4 losses have to motivate them. They've been so close. The offense is better than it's been in years with Hayden Garrison, Thomas Simpson, several other guys, Cooper Griffin, all stepping up and making big plays this season. You've got to rely on that. You've got to rely that the defense has learned some lessons throughout the season, is getting better. This is a team that's been on the they're on the cusp of being at least 3-1. If they have a better start to the second half against Oak Mountain, this is a team that could be 4-0 right now. That's how close a lot of these games have been. It's been 1 or 2 plays here and there that have swung the momentum and changed the outcome of the game. So if you're Chelsea, you've got to come out, you've got to set the tone and find what that momentum's going to be early in this game. Take a touchdown or 2 lead and find that confidence. This is going to be a battle. I expect both of these teams with unique offenses that can do some different things and make adjustments. They're tough to prepare for. I think you're going to see a lot of fun. It was fun last year for the first half. Chelsea came out a little flat in the second half, and Pelham was able to pull away there for the win. But this year, Chelsea's much better offensively. Pelham's been about the same team. I think you're going to see another fantastic football game between these two schools, a great opportunity for each to pick up a big win that's needed to gain some confidence going into the second half. But you look on paper, they've been pretty average on both sides of the ball for the most part. Pelham, they're scoring 24.8 points per game, giving up 21.4. points per game. Chelsea scoring 25.8 points per game, playing some good offense this year, drastically improved on that side of the ball, but they're giving up 38 points per game, and that's the big key. When you've got a defense in Pelham that's played extremely well for the most part this season, they're giving up, 17 points less per game so far this season. I think that could be what makes the difference in this game. That defense is playing so well, but if it does become a shootout, this game's a toss-up. Chelsea's got the offense to win a game like that, so this one could go either way, but at the end of the day, you got to figure that defense for Pelham has the experience. You got to think that's going to be what makes the difference. Nonetheless, I'll be out there covering this game. I'm extremely excited to see how it unfolds between these two county teams, and I think it could go right down to the wire. Well, consistency's been the name of the game so far for the Briarwood Lions. They've scored 42 points exactly in their last 4 games, and in their 5 games this year so far, they've only had one game where they didn't score 42 points, and guess what? They scored 41. So they've been pretty consistent there on the offensive side of the football, averaging 41.8 points per game so far, sitting at 5-0, a team likely to jump up to number 3 in the Class 6A standings this week. So a strong start to the season for the Briarwood Lions. Christopher Vizina continues to get better each and every week. 5 touchdown passes last week in that big win so against Huffman on Thursday night. Now they've had an extra day to rest, prepare for this week's game against Mortimer Jordan. And you look at the way this offense is playing, not only has Vizina been playing well, but you look at the receivers, you look at a guy like Ethan Anderson, you look at some others at the receiver position, Luke Rebels at running back. This is a team that's loaded on that offensive side of the ball, and they're starting to gain more confidence in one another as well, and it's all because of what they have up front. This is an offensive line that came in as experienced as it's been in a long time, and when you've got a guy like Vizina back there who can run the football, who's got a great arm and can throw the football as well, you're looking at a dangerous team that's going to continue to get better each and every game the rest of the way. The big key is going to be how much that defense continues to improve. A lot of new faces on that side of the ball this year. They fared well early on in the season, started to slack off a little bit there around games 3 and 4, but you look at the way that they're starting to gain some traction again. This is a defense that's going to get better if they stay healthy as they get later into the season. They're well coached on that side of the ball, so you pair those two things together, and you've got a dangerous combination for opponents coming up in the second half, and Briarwood's going to need it. They've got a tough second half of region play coming up. They've got Shades Valley, they've got Homewood, and they've got Mountain Brook. Those 3 games will determine who wins that difficult region championship. And right now you look at Mountain Brook and you look at Briarwood as kind of those top 2 teams. That battle coming up in a few weeks. And then you've got Homewood at the end of the year. Shades Valley's been decent this year again as well. So Briarwood going to have a tough test ahead. So a big night ahead on Friday against Mortimer Jordan. You don't want to lose any of your confidence going into that difficult 3-game stretch. But you're looking at an offense for Briarwood that's scoring around 42 points per game, defense giving up just 19 points per game, and they're taking on a Mortimer Jordan team that's giving up 30 points per game and scoring just 23.5. This is a game in which you saw Pelham beat Mortimer Jordan 42-6 to start the season. I think Briarwood's a little bit better than Pelham this year. I think you're going to see Briarwood's offense get back into the 40s again for the 6th consecutive week. I think the defense is going to come out and have its best performance since those first 2 games as well. I think you're going to see Briarwood pull away in this one, continue to steamroll into that difficult stretch to end the season. I think you're looking at the Lions in a strong position on Friday night as they look to improve to 6-0 overall. There's going to be a lot of unknown in this matchup of bordering counties as the Shelby County Wildcats hit the road to take on Chilton County this Friday night. And you look at what the Wildcats have done so far this season, sitting at 2-2. But they're coming off a difficult loss last week. 53-7, they lose to Demopolis, and I think we expected them to lose that game. Demopolis easily a top 10 team in the 5A classification, a team that could vie for a state championship in that classification. But it wasn't the step the Wildcats needed. They had been playing so well the last couple of weeks with 2 wins in a row that to lose that game in such dominating fashion is kind of a step backward. Now you have to get back to where you were going into that matchup as you take on a 6A Chilton County team, so a team that's a step up classification-wise. And it's a big week for the Wildcats as they could, after this game, win every game the rest of the way, and they could have that 2 seed and home field advantage in the first round of the playoffs, which would be huge for a team that hadn't made the playoffs since 2009 going into last year. Obviously, they end that 10-year drought a season ago and get into the postseason, but they were probably better than the 3 or 4 seed that they got last year. This year, a strong chance to get a top 2 seed. If you can pick up a win on Friday night, that gives you a load of confidence going into those games that you think you should win here in the second half of region play. You look at what Chilton County's done so far, and they've struggled at times this year. This is a team that scored just 15 points per game so far this season, and outside of scoring 40 in one game so far this season, they've scored 13 or less in every other game and given up 21 or more. And this is a Shelby County team. They played pretty poor on the defensive side last week. Early on, we're doing okay, but ended up giving up those 53 points. They need to bounce back, play like they did the week before against Selma in an 11-8 win. This is a defense that's shown progress from the start of the season, has gotten better, and now they need to have another good game against an offense that's struggling. You've got to go in with the mindset that we are better defensively than they are on the offensive side. Let's take some chances and make some big plays here on the defensive side of the football, because that could make a difference in a tight game like this. Last year, this game was a 6-point game, a tight battle down to the wire. Shelby County's able to pull it out and pick up that win against a team of classification higher. I think they've got a strong chance to do that same thing again this year. The offense scoring just 19.2 points per game, and the defense giving up 31 points per game, but they've played a decently difficult schedule so far this season, and the offense, I think, is going to have a better game this Friday night against Chilton County, a team that's struggled on that defensive side, where Shelby County's defense, I think, can make a difference in this matchup against a struggling Chilton County offense. I think this is going to be a tight battle. I don't see either team pulling away because of their offensive struggles so far this season. So it's going to be who can make the big play in the fourth quarter. That should make the difference and determine who comes out a winner. Well, that takes care of the AHSAA. Now we jump into our AISA and ACSC teams, and we've got some big matchups taking place this Friday night featuring those teams. And we're going to start with the Cornerstone Chargers coming off their second win of the season as they take down Snook 67-12, another dominant performance. And so far in their 2 wins this season, Cornerstone's outscored opponents 79-12 in those 2 wins. But in their 2 losses, they've been outscored 119-0. Obviously shows the balance difference as far as their opponents go in those 4 games so far this season. So now they get another chance this week against Abbeville. This is a team in which Cornerstone should have a strong chance to pick up a win against. Abbeville has lost 2 in a row to Lowndes and Pickens, 42-7 and 35-14 respectively, but they also have a 52-6 win. So if you look at that, you look at the way these 2 teams have played so far this season, struggled against the tough opponents, taking care of business against opponents that they should win against. I think that lends itself to a tight game in this battle. This could be a lot of fun to watch between these 2 teams as they seem to be very similar on paper. I don't know that one really has an upper hand going into that matchup. The Coosa Valley Rebels had a big opportunity to win 2 in a row last Friday. They end up falling short 14-6 to Fort Dell. They just couldn't get the offense going in that matchup, but the defense continuing to play some great football so far this season. Now they get a 4-0 Jackson team, going to be one of the toughest teams on their schedule. They've given up just 14 combined points this season, 7 or less in every game so far, with 2 shutouts on the schedule as well. In addition to that, they're scoring 41.8 points per game. I do think Coosa Valley is going to continue to do things well defensively, but the way their offense is struggling, taking on one of the best defenses in the AISA this Friday, I don't see the Rebels scoring enough points in this one to be able to pick up the win. Evangel, they get back on their home field this Friday night. They take on Lighthouse. The Lightning, big statement win last Friday night, 63-24 to hand Freedom their first loss of the season. And now they get a big chance yet again this Friday night. Lighthouse coming off a 34-31 win against Ezekiel, a 34-32 win against Ezekiel. And Ezekiel, normally the big rival of Evangel, but the last couple of years, Lighthouse has snuck in there. And this could be a big game in determining who is playing for the state championship in the ACSC at the end of the year. Lighthouse, however, they lost to Freedom 40-6, whereas Evangel beat them 63-24. So with that said, I think Evangel is going to continue to roll. I think you're looking at a Lightning team that picks up yet another win this Friday night and submits themselves as the favorite for the ACSC state championship after missing out on that last year. Well, now it's time to hand out some SCR Stars and several playmakers yet again. They came up big last Friday night, another big week of region action there across Shelby County. And we got to start with the Thompson Warriors as they continue to roll on both sides of the ball in a big matchup, their toughest test to date so far this season against number 4 Hewitt. Several playmakers made some big-time plays in that game. We got to start with quarterback Connor Harrell, 15 of 23 for 209 yards and 4 touchdowns. It's just another day at the office for him. He continues to roll there at the quarterback position. And Justin Pegues, he may be the most underrated athlete in this state right now. You look at what this kid has done so far this season. He's been dynamite in the kick game. He's been dynamite at receiver. He's been dynamite at running the football. And now he led the Warriors in rushing. After leading them in receiver at the receiver position earlier this season, after stepping up and playing big in the kick return game where he's taken several big kickoffs back, he steps up last week and plays another big game as he totals 13 carries, 114 yards running the football. So he's done it in every facet so far as one of the most talented athletes in the state. Jalen Ward also stepped up. He played big at receiver, 119 yards, 2 touchdowns on 6 catches. And Ryan Pepins, another run-of-the-mill game for him, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns on 9 catches there for the Warriors. And then, of course, you've got to mention some of their defensive players and how well they continue to play. Jeremiah Alexander and Peter Woods, big again. They combined for 8.5 tackles, including 5 for loss and 3 sacks between the two of them. The Warriors also had a pick 6 on a deflected pass from Alexander in that game and a recovered fumble in the end zone. They've now given up 9 or less in every game for an average of 2.4 points per game so far defensively, a team that's just going to be tough to score on all the way to the end of the season. For the Oak Mountain Eagles, Evan Smith, he gave a valiant effort in that matchup against number 2 Hoover. He had a total of 165 yards passing, 109 yards rushing with 3 touchdowns there in that comeback attempt. They fell 7 points short in a difficult 28-21 loss, but he continues to lay it all out there. If they see each other again, don't be surprised if that's another tight game there between Oak Mountain and Hoover. Right here at Helena High School, Mac Turner stepped up big yet again. The quarterback, near 200 yards passing, had 2 touchdowns in that win, including the game-winning touchdown pass to J.C. Sivley, who also had a big game. 5 catches, 121 yards, and 2 touchdowns, including that game winner. He was huge there for the Huskies in that win against Pelham. Looked to injure himself early in that game, sliding on a tarp after catching his first touchdown pass, but that wasn't going to keep him down and out. He came right back and finished with 121 and 2 touchdowns. Big night for him. And Jordan Washington, his best game of the season so far at running back, the young stud there for the Huskies. 157 yards and a touchdown on 26 carries, a physical body to bring down. He's going to be another big one to watch here Friday night against McAdory. So a strong performance from their offense. And Connor Pugh, he seemed to be in the backfield every snap there for the Huskies defensively. 7.5 tackles, including 4.5 tackles for loss. A strong showing from Pugh there in that win. A big defensive performance for him. On the losing side of that, Will Langford and Darius Copeland, 2 big nights from them yet again. They had a dominant showing. You look at Will Langford, 16 of 31, 372 yards and 4 touchdowns in that game. And Copeland, 189 yards and 3 touchdowns, also had a 2-point conversion. He's a guy kind of like Pegues, flying a little bit under the radar this year. Darius Copeland needs to be getting some looks at the college level. He's made some big-time plays. Looked a lot like Kobe Prentice did against Pelham earlier this season, the Alabama commit from Calera. That's how well he played last week, Darius Copeland did, for the Panthers as they gave their best shot at upsetting Helena in that game. Christopher Vizina at Briarwood, another strong performance. We've talked about it a little bit. 280 yards passing with 5 touchdowns against Huffman in that 42-14 win. Seems like he's going to throw at least 4 touchdowns or score at least 4 touchdowns in seemingly every game this season. Ethan Anderson stepped up as well, more than 100 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns for the Lions there at receiver. They've now had 3 different receivers step up with big games this year. Now they're all starting to do it at the same time. That's huge for the Lions moving forward with how well they played defensively, and that was the missing link coming into the season for the offense. So big things ahead if they can continue to do that. For the Montevallo Bulldogs, Kyle Cottingham, finally starting to see him progress and step up there on the offensive side. He gained some confidence, 7 of 8, 106 yards passing with 3 touchdowns, and that was big time needed. This is a team, you look at Joseph Anderson, had another big night, but if they can get Kyle Cottingham to step up and be that next athlete that can make some big time plays, you've got a Montevallo team that's taking that next step. But speaking of Anderson, another big one, 271 yards and 3 touchdowns on 12 carries, and in 3 of the 5 games so far this year, he has rushed for more than 270 yards now. Just remarkable stuff there from Anderson at the running back position. Jamari Lawson starting to do the same thing. Coming off his 311-yard performance last week with 4 touchdowns, he follows that up with 206 yards and 3 touchdowns rushing. Also added a 70-yard touchdown reception. On the defensive side for Vincent, that's been the highlight to me so far this year for the Yellow Jackets. Zach Wright stepped up. He had 10 tackles and a sack, and Zach Carlisle had 2 interceptions as the Yellow Jackets made the plays necessary to maintain their lead throughout that game and pull away and pick up a big win as they now sit at 4-1. So those are our SCR Stars this week. We'll see how many we have on a week of non-region action this Friday night. I expect some more big-time playmakers, and I expect that to continue to be the case moving throughout the season. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Shelby County High School Football Show. Sun's popped out here on what otherwise has been a rainy week the last few days, so that's a sign ahead. We've got something brewing for this Friday night. It's going to be a lot of fun as it is the midway point of the 2021 high school football season. Some big non-region contests, including our game of the week right here at Helena High School. So make sure you get out, catch one of these great games on Friday night. We're running out of opportunity this season. I expect some big-time performances, some close, tight games this Friday as we get geared up for the second half of region play. We'll have all the coverage for you on Twitter at Alec Etheridge SC. Make sure you go follow along. We'll give you the updates throughout the night from all games taking place featuring Shelby County teams. And then obviously we'll have our story and photos posted there on our website and on Facebook following another great night of high school football. We'll have our Facebook Live show. That'll be at Chelsea High School for that county battle between Pelham and Chelsea. Graham Brooks will be out here at this one for our game of the week. So we're going to have all immersive coverage across the county this Friday night. Make sure you tune into that Facebook Live pregame show as we get you geared up on Friday night live from Chelsea. But for now, that's going to do it from here at Helena High School.